folks, this is all the fruit, and here I'm at Jardin del Real in Valencia. Beautiful park. Why is it called Jardin del Real? Well, see this ruin in front of me? That used to be a royal palace or castle or mansion or something. Some pretty important place. For example, they used to store the Holy Grail here. Yeah, the one from Indiana Jones, exactly. Now they store it in the cathedral. But so much about the name. It's quite a nice park. One of those fancy Spanish city parks which have one of those fancy metal fences and fancy walls and entrance gates around them, and which are being closed at night so that people cannot sleep or party or do other things in here. Poor young guys and girls. Yeah, Spanish teenagers live with their parents often till they are 35, and now they cannot even use the park at night. Well, anyways, it's a beautiful park. It's not a dedicated tree collection. Actually, here in Valencia so far I have only seen dedicated tree collection in the Botanic Garden. All the other parks are nice and beautiful and impressive, but mostly, yeah, they use easy to grow trees which are impressive, but they don't put their stress on diversity. Still, let's see what we can find here. Pittosporum, sticky seed, some platanos, and those seem to be Platanos orientales, the oriental sycamore, which is native to the Mediterranean. Actually, in cities nowadays, especially in the Mediterranean, mostly Platanus ex hispanica is being grown. This is a hybrid, which is a hybrid between the oriental sycamore and the American sycamore. But those here could still be the oriental sycamore. Here we have acanthus, very prolific plant in the Mediterranean. By the way, it's being said that that this has inspired a lot of ancient and classic art, and that, for example, a lot of capitals from the old columns, from the old antique columns, are being modeled after the acanthus leaves. Fortunately, I don't know any edible uses for it. It's a pity because it's huge. It's everywhere in the Mediterranean. It's big and juicy. Tell me if you know how to eat acanthus. Melia cedara, the paternoster tree, a type of soapberry, very invasive in some areas, becoming a bit invasive in Spain, but not as big of a problem as in some parts of America. The seeds are very toxic, and the problem is since rosaries are being made from them so that you can more easily keep track of your paternosters or of your prayers. You shouldn't kiss those rosaries because it will bring you a lot closer to God. Or, to be a bit more precise, it will kill you. Down here, two nice juicy plants. However, the right one is toxic, the left one is edible in small amounts. You should stay away from ranunculaceae. Most of them are more or less toxic. And you should be very careful with wood sorrels. They are very tasty, but they contain oxalate, like other sorrels. You eat too much, you get kidney stones. Here we have a red bud, most probably the Mediterranean one. Already stopped budding and flowering. Those are the fruits. Every part is toxic except for the flowers, which are already gone from those here. Around it, a relative of the red part, Sophora japonica, I learned that the flowers and maybe even the fruits are edible. But right now, I don't see flowers, and the fruits are already very old. However, I saw pigeons eating them yesterday. Another relative of red bud and Sophora. What is Sophora? Pagoda tree, Japanese pagoda tree. So another relative of Sophora and Japanese pagoda tree is the honey locust from North America. Inside the big fruits there is a edible goo. However, this one is already dried up completely. And yet another relative of all those, the black locust. Each part of the black locust is toxic, except for the flowers. I had some flowers yesterday around here, but it seems those were out of season flowers, because most of the trees don't have flowers. Leaves, fruits, bark, everything else is toxic. Next, we have the Arabian or African date palm. Very important fruit in desert areas. And on the semi-desert Spanish Mediterranean coast, it was introduced as an important fruit tree and as an important religious symbol by the Arabs. And it has stayed. Those are supposed to produce good fruits in the dry season, but they are not in season. So you can see this tree is protected. It's one of the branching specimens. And they have Arbre Monumental. The Valencia City Council or City Hall is putting those signs at the monumental trees. All those signs, they sound more French than Spanish, because Valencia, like most of the east of Spain, actually the original language was not Spanish but Catalan, so Valencian is a dialect of Catalan, not of Spanish, and a lot of the local governments prefer to write in the local dialect. It's a bit difficult for people like me. It was hard enough to learn Spanish, but every time I try to understand Catalan I get headaches. Valencia is also very proud of their huge Moreton Bay figs. The fruits are edible, but this year it's not really ripe yet. Oh, but over there I see a big juicy treat. No, I don't eat little children. What do you think? Talking about something completely different. Well, let's first see what is on the way, on the way to the nice juicy children. Well, cedar, as far as I know, the pollen of those cedars is considered as a superfood by some, but be careful when you're trying to eat conifers. Some of them have a lot of edible parts, others are very toxic. Always do your research. Here the dwarf palm, the only palm native to the Mediterranean to the European continent and to mainland Spain. By far the northernmost palm in the world and one of the hardiest. The fruits are edible, but right now those are flowering. Oh, the kids are singing. I can be demonetized for recording this. Yes, YouTube has done this to many of my videos. 2 seconds of some song and suddenly the monetization goes to the owner of the song. Well, here the big juicy stuff. Queen palms. Those Siagrus romansofiana. Those are some of the tastiest palm fruits in the world. Also known as queen dates. They are not a date, but they are palm fruit, so yeah, you can call them dates. Very sweet, very aromatic, also fibrous and dry and slimy, but the sweetness and the flavor are wonderful. Like when you find one that's in season, jackpot. There are about 50 kilograms of fruits on this one and half of them are ripe. And they are low enough that you can beat them down with a short stick. Not that I recommend this. And they are bigger than the ones I just collected. See, this one is bigger. Much thicker flesh. Wonderful taste. Peaches. And apricots. Mostly apricots, but also peaches. Canary Island date palm. Not as good as the Arabian dates, but still edible when fully ripe. Kapok tree. The fruits and seeds are kinda edible, but the important resource is, apart from the ornamental value, this fluff. See, there is a fruit where the husk has fallen off and the fluff has fluffed up. This fluff is hydrophobic. See, there is a seed caught in the fluff. Those seeds are kind of edible, but this fluff was used to stuff swimming vest or teddy bears or blankets or such things. Very useful thing. Unfortunately, it's been largely replaced by synthetic fluffs. Back to the palms. Finished Rebellini, a small date palm from the Mekong area in Asia. The dates are black and tiny and totally edible, but no dates right now. I thought those were kapok petals falling down here, but it's a balloon. Here is a European date palm with ripe fruits. Well, compared to the queen dates, those of inferior quality. Very fibrous. Usually they are sweet, but after the super sweet queen dates, just don't taste right. A lot of forageable birds here, but today is their lucky day. Since I'm a vegetarian, not gonna forage them. Remember that even the rats of the air are edible. Our bird statues usually aren't. Queen dates are delicious and addictive, but really those fibers and the sticky flesh together. Boy, pretty good for training your jaw muscles. Look at this ornamental fig. I forgot the name, and it might be ornamental, but the fruits are big and edible. However, not in season yet. Unripe. See if we find a couple nice ripe fruits. What about this here? Looks at least half ripe. Yeah. Ripe-ish, but still mostly sour. And not as nice as I would like it to be. When they are fully ripe, they are even tastier. And you can imagine tens of thousands of them on one single tree. And with the size of walnuts, you can either eat them when they are fully ripe. I'm sure you could use them in a curry when they are half ripe. They will give a lot of bulk to the curry and also some nutrients, but mostly bulk. Taste and nutrients you have to get from other things, but if they are ripe, they would even give you a lot of sugar. Very prolific tree. I think I've rarely have seen such a prolific tree of this palm species, but I always forget the name. Here's some more Canary Island date palms, more or less in season-ish. Unripe fruits falling to the ground. Well, no, this is already half ripe. Yeah. Even some sweetness. Not too bad. Doesn't taste as good as those queen palms, but it's also neither fibrous nor sticky. Let's see. Passion flowers. Here, see those things that look like red cables? Those all passion flower vines. Passiflora cerulea. Was hit hard by the drought here. Not a single flower. Well, here under those cypresses, the drought is even worse for them. Not a single flower. Not a single fruit. The fruits looks a bit like those, but taste a bit different. Hey ducky, you forageable? You forageable? A white mulberry and an ailanthus tree in the background. Well, the white mulberry is edible, the ailanthus tree is not. Colonia felina. A feline colony. I mean, this is a house for stray cats. Well, if you ask the Asians, a cat is just a rabbit with a long tail. Yeah, for me a cat is also just a rabbit with a long tail. I'm a vegetarian. I wouldn't, you know, if you like to eat rabbits or pork or beef, then shut up about the Asians eating cats and dogs. They totally have the same right to do this. I would like to forbid you, well no, I could like to forbid you from eating all this pork and beef because pigs and cows are cute, but I don't. So let the Asians eat their cats and dogs. And look at that, oranges. However, those unfortunately not the tasty Valencia oranges, but the sour Seville oranges. The last fruits and also the flowers are already almost over. The coast around Valencia, the tourist area around Valencia, it's called Costa de Azahar. The coast of the orange flower scent, because Valencia is the biggest producer of oranges in Europe. Why are you not in the feline colony, buddy? Don't be scared, I'm not an Asian. I don't eat little rabbits. Well, since there are millions, maybe even, no, rather billions of orange trees around Valencia, the tourist area is called the coast of the orange flower scent. It's a wonderful scent. Citrus extracts are being used profusely in cosmetics, and none is being used more than the so-called bitter orange stuff. Bitter orange flower extracts, seed extracts, leaf extracts, bark extracts, rind extracts, juice extracts, and so on. Here we have some other citrus. Looks a lot like mandarins. I think those are mandarins, however not a single fruit on those mandarins. What a pity. Which way does the park continue? If I want to stay inside this park, I think I should stay inside the main fence. I have to continue this way. It's quite a big park. I cannot be at the end yet. Beautiful couple of trees. Just don't try to climb them. See those spines? I wonder how they harvest them. They are so tall that you often cannot just use sticks, you have to climb. Do you climb something like this? It's not a tree, it's a torture rack. Oh, let's see. The park continues in this direction, and I'm too lazy to edit the video. Here we have silver berries. However, the season is over. The season was here in winter. The season was probably around Christmas. Silver berries are very tasty. They're tasty enough. And when you are done eating the admittedly not very plentiful flesh, you can chew up the fibrous seed, because the inside tastes kind of like peanuts, and it's probably healthier than peanuts. Peanuts are not being considered a very healthy nut. Aloe. This is not aloe vera, but some other one. I think it's still one of those you can use as a medicine. I learned that there are a couple aloes with toxic sap, which you should not put on your skin, or your skin will suffer. Here a group of Canary Islands dragon trees, and here are the fruits. There are records that the Guanches, the old inhabitants of Tenerife, used to eat the fruits. Botanists who tried them are usually surprised how this works, because the fruits are usually of horrible quality. They taste incredibly disgusting. However, I read in some publication that the fruits are probably of very different quality. And then I sacrificed myself and tried the fruits of every dragon tree until finally I find one which had incredibly tasty fruits. I think the Spanish should try and select a fruit variety from the species. The fruits are of very different quality and the good ones are totally worth eating. Another thing which was eaten, well, at least chewed in big amounts, is the dragon blood, the sap which the tree uses. It's not a real tree, this is not real wood. It's kind of a tree-like giant lily. And they can get much more bigger, those are still babies. Well, this is the sap being used to heal the wounds. And also, it was used as varnish or as a chewing gum which helps to prevent tooth decay by the Spanish colonizers, and the tree was almost driven to extinction for collecting the sap and destroying it to make sugarcane plantations and others. Here a bay leaf, very important spice. It's native to this area. It's one of the major trees/shrubs in the Mediterranean vegetation. So when you're in the Mediterranean, there is no excuse paying for this thing because you'll find it almost everywhere growing wild and for free. Foraging tree, Brachychiton populneus. This is an Australian tree, which means it's trying to kill you. At the same time, it will save you if you know how to treat it and if you are lucky. The seeds are edible. Apparently leaves, flowers and young twigs are also edible. The root, the big taproot, is supposed to taste either like carrot or like radish. Also, this tree usually grows where you can dig for water, and if you don't find water, you just squeeze out the thick roots. If you cannot squeeze them out, you put them on the fire, and the fire drives out the water. So this is the most important survival plant in parts of the Australian outback. It will give you food and water, and also shelter and timber, and the bark is also useful for technical purposes. But since this is Australia, it's gonna try to kill you all the way while it's doing this, because the seeds are surrounded by itchy glockets, and if those things get on your skin, you scratch. If they get on your clothes, you throw away your clothes. If they get into your eyes, good luck surviving this in a survival situation. Hordeum morinum, the mouse barley. Unfortunately, the seeds are not of a size that they are really useful to humans. But the plant, I like it a lot. It's a nice climate indicator. In Germany, it only grows in warmer areas. Dog owners hate it because it can kill their dogs, apparently. Those tips on the seeds and parts of the inflorescence can work their way through the skin of the dogs or through the mouth of the dogs into the body of the dogs and then wreak havoc while drilling their way through the body of the dogs. Can also happen with humans if you chew those things and cannot get them out in time. But fortunately, unlike the dogs, we have hands. Here, by the way, an ornamental, basically probably non-fertile type of the wood sorrel. The good thing is it has more tasty petals. The bad thing is, since it's even more beautiful than the normal sorrel, some people even today might want to use it as an ornamental and thus spread it. Beautiful, those fruiting kapok trees everywhere. By the way, this is a piece of the husk. So inside the husk is this fluff. What have we got here? Here is the red bud flowering. Let's see if some of those are low enough. I can snag them. Oh yeah, it's cauliflorous, means it has flowers on big branches and even on the stem. And yeah, those flowers are the only edible part of the red bud. Nice. So different from all other edible tree flowers. Mostly sour, also sweet, very tasty. Don't know what this is. Looks a bit like Lepisantes. Tell me if you know what this tree is. Oh, here we are back at the Royal Palace. I wonder what destroyed it. Something has destroyed it in the last couple hundred centuries. Except for the Napoleonic Wars and the Civil War, there were not many armed conflicts around here. But it's gone now. Olive trees. Beautiful. Grayish. The grayish color reflects sunlight. This helps a lot against the hot sun in the Mediterranean summers. Also, if you stand underneath the tree, you see that the leaves are actually not horizontal. Most of them are vertical. They don't want to catch too much sunlight, especially in summer. Avoiding the sunlight here in Spain is a matter of survival. And of course, the tasty olives which ripen in winter are one of the most important staples. Also, wherever you can successfully grow olive trees, this is considered Mediterranean climate. Without irrigation, I might say. So, basically, when people want to map out the Mediterranean region, they check for olive plantations wherever they are. The climate is Mediterranean. Pine trees, this should be Pinus, what, Halepensis or Brutzii, I always confuse those two. They should be native to the area, but native mostly to sand dunes. In the 20th century, the Spanish planted them everywhere on dry slopes to give labor to the impoverished country folks and to produce timber. What they didn't appreciate is that a lot of trees retain water in the soil, but those pines, they dry out the slopes. And since Spain also wants to make a lot of money from fruit and veg, crops which need to be watered, those pines, they compete with those crops. If they had planted some broadleaf trees or some other trees which mostly have to retain moisture, they would have had more water for the fruit and veg. But the pines, they suckle up the water themselves. Here a Canary Island date palm full of dates. They are small and a bit tart, but they are edible, but they were never domesticated. Actually, we don't know if the Guanches or some other tribe in the Canary Islands did domesticate them before the arrival of the Europeans and Arabs. The culture of the Guanches and the Canarios was destroyed. Maybe just with the dragon tree they had some selections of superior Canary Island dates. However, pretty soon Arabian dates were introduced to the Canary Islands, and after that nobody cared for the fruits of those things. Still, they were very important. I mean, they were a type of timber, and the only type of thick straight timber in some desert-like areas. Also, you could use the fronds to cover roofs. They might not be completely rain-proof, but in the hot Canary Islands, protection from the sun is often more important. And also North African slaves who had tapped the Arabian date palm for thousands of years for its sap, also started tapping the Canary Island date palm for its sugary sap, from which you can make sugar and alcoholic drinks. So it was kind of a useful tree for the European colonizers, but not so much the fruits. That's why we don't know if there were some selections. Almost nothing is left from the culture, from the pre-European Canarian cultures, which is a pity. Here again some citruses, no idea what, but it's probably again the Seville orange and not the Valencia orange. European yew. This is a tree that can grow in very hot Mediterranean climates and also in quite coolish, wettish places like Britain. Grows to incredible sizes and is incredibly toxic. All except the pink aril is incredibly toxic. Strelitzia, very popular flower because you can transport it pretty well before it starts blooming because the bud is really tough. Here, a ginkgo, more closely related to conifers than to other broadleaf trees. It even produces a fruit that looks like a plum. The fruit is edible but tastes of puke. The seeds are more valuable but are still slightly toxic, so you shouldn't overeat on them. Here in the background, already outside the park, we have 2 Peruvian pepper trees. Let's see if I manage to find some inside the park and try them. Here we have an araucaria, even a couple araucarias of different species, but they don't seem to be any of the edible species. Not exactly sure what species, I just think this is a very different species from this. And both are non-edible. What do we have here? A linden or lime tree. It's not closely related to the citruses. It bears no limes, but the flowers smell very nicely. You can make tea from them, and the tea is kind of medicinal. Also, often the leaves are covered with a sticky poo of aphids, which you can use, which is a type of manna, so you can use it. You can lick it off and it's basically sweet. It's kinda nice, but I wouldn't do it in an urban setting because the sticky substance attracts all the pollutants. What do we have here? Ooh. Wait. If those are from the sucas, they are totally toxic. But those are the smallest sucas I'd even considered a seed, which I've ever seen. Even those here are extremely small. So it might be a species I'm not familiar with. Or could they be from the araucaria? If they are from an araucaria, they would be edible, but no. They are lying everywhere under the sucas. And they are not lying away from the sucas. Very important. Yeah. No, the araucaria ones. Here we already have some which look. This should still be araucaria. Yeah, be very careful with those things, folks. This is an araucaria. If you think everything that's lying around the araucaria is edible, nope. Sucas are incredibly toxic. And those big plump things here definitely come from the sucas and not from the araucaria, so stay away from them. We got here Magnolia grandiflora, edible flowers, but in this drought, yeah, we actually at the end of a 6-month rainy season which didn't materialize. We did not have a rainy season this year. The parks are being watered every day and still it's barely enough to keep the trees alive. So those magnolias decided they don't have enough water for their giant flowers. What a pity. But yeah, when you don't have enough water, the funny thing is, let me see, 6-7 years ago in Germany there was still the dominating opinion that Germany will never have water problems. In just 2 years they started the long drought which have been going on for several years now, and even in Germany people are watering the old trees which have survived for 50, 100, 200 years, sometimes even much longer. They are watering them just to preserve them. And I talked with the guy who is responsible for a couple big parks in Heidelberg, told them that a couple young trees that are dying. He said, I don't care. I need all my money, all my water and all my workers just to water the old, well, monumental tree. I don't know, man. This is not very old. Just to water the old magnificent trees. If the young ones die, we'll plant new ones in a couple years. If the old ones die, we need 100 years to get them back. 10 years ago, nobody would have expected that you have to water old trees in Germany, only young, freshly planted trees. We had a year of heavy drought in 2003, then another one in 2015, but in between the years were kind of okay to wet. But since 2018, even in Germany, watering big trees has become an everyday thing. Hibiscus, probably Rosa sinensis. The flower is edible, but come on, I think the people here want to enjoy this flower. Yeah, it's very interesting here, this mixture of subtropical and temperate trees. They could have planted a lot more subtropical trees here, but it seems that in every country the gardeners who like subtropical stuff are being concentrated in the most subtropical areas. For example, in France it would be on the Côte d'Azur, which is probably a cooler climate than the area of Valencia. But all the French gardeners who want to stay in continental France and still do tropical things are on the Côte d'Azur. That's why we have a lot of tropical and subtropical trees. Valencia is not the warmest part of the Mediterranean coast of Spain, not the warmest part of Spain. So here they don't care so much. The gardeners who care about collections of subtropical trees probably went to Andalusia. Here, by the way, a flowering curajong tree. The flowers are supposed to be edible. Let's see. Sweet and with the flavor like mulberries. With a trace of bitterness. Okay, but not overwhelming. Ficus elastica. The fruits are inferior, but if you are lucky to find sap of the right consistency, you can chew it for hours as a, excuse me, chewing gum. We're already at 36 minutes. Well, hackberries, they also have edible fruits, but fruits are already out of season and the new ones are still not ready. European strawberry tree, it's not that it grows strawberries, here are the fruits. It's called madroño in Spanish. If the name sounds familiar, the city of Madrid is named after this tree. Mediterranean, what is this? Spartium juncteum, relative of the grouse. The sage. Well, ombu, the most important tree in the culture of the gauchos of the South American pampas. Yeah, I'm sure if I continue a bit longer I find a couple more trees, but basically that's the park. Quite well maintained, quite nice, just unfortunately not a real collection of rare trees, more like a beautiful city park. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful and incredibly fruit-rich city of Valencia. If you want to receive more such content, you shouldn't just subscribe to my channel because YouTube stopped recommending my videos even to subscribers. You should rather press the little bell icon to be notified of any new upload.